Hey everybody, I want to talk to you a little bit about body paragraphs. We've talked about introductions and conclusions. We've talked a little bit about body paragraphs, but I want to go a little bit more in depth. Why on earth do we use paragraphs in the first place, right? And there are a few reasons why we do that. I'm going to share my screen here with a little PowerPoint presentation that will hopefully explain why we have body paragraphs, why we use paragraphs, and why they're important. And so let me continue on. According to the handout that we have, which is comprised of information put together by Dr. Gunilla Kester, we use paragraphs for a variety of reasons. We use them when there's a major change in topic. So I often say that you should try to aim for having one idea per paragraph. So if you see that you are kind of changing into a new idea, that may be an indicator to you that you should start a new paragraph. Likewise, if there's a shift in focus to a major division or subdivision within an existing topic, if you're going into further explanation or a major division, that's also an indicator that you might want to break up a larger chunk of text into a couple of smaller paragraphs. We use paragraphs when you as a writer are changing point of view or your opinion about a topic. So if you're raising points of in support of an argument, and then you have a counter argument that's kind of changing the author's point of view. So of course, that's going to fall into a new paragraph. Likewise, if there's a change of approach to the topic, like shifting from statistical analysis to an anecdote or a story, or a change, an anecdote to a story, sorry, that can be an indicator that you want to start a new paragraph. Likewise, there's also a change in level of generality. Sometimes we are moving from general to more specific, or more from the specific to more general terms. So that is another guideline for you to change to a new paragraph. Also, if there's a shift in time or place, or a shift in the speakers, like we're alternating speakers in a dialogue, of course, you're going to start new paragraphs there. If there's a division of material to set off points or points for emphasis, division to make the material easier to follow, or division to provide variety and interest. Those are all reasons to use new paragraphs. And lastly, consider the norms of culture or the literary mode, or even your own stylistic sense. More modern writers are not used to looking at long blocks of text. Visually, it does something to the brain. It kind of tires the brain out. We're just not used to reading in that way. We're used to reading smaller segments of text. So I suggest the use of white space and try to divide those longer page to page and a half paragraphs into shorter chunks of text. It's just easier for the eye and for the brain to process that information. It was different, 100 to 150 years ago. We weren't so embedded in text culture. What I mean by text culture, like texting and social media and that kind of stuff, all the internet stuff. But we were more reading books and used to digesting longer sentences and longer paragraphs and that kind of thing. I mean, if anybody has read Charles Dickens, you know that he has a very complex sentence structure, and his sentences can be very long and his paragraphs can be very long. And that can be kind of tiresome if you're not used to using your brain in that way. So for our culture and this kind of literary mode, meaning argumentative essay, we are going to be using somewhat shorter paragraphs that aren't as complex as the literature of the Victorian era, for example. So that's what that means, the norms of culture or the literary mode. Again, also it's your own personal sense. If you just see something, you're like, that just looks like it's too long, or that looks like it's too short. I need to do something to fix it. That's also a reason to play around with paragraphs. So body paragraphs, like essays, contain different pieces, right? They're structured in a certain way. They contain topic sentences, which introduce the paragraph, and it connects to your thesis statement. And then you have sentences that provide support for your thesis, and these can be used in examples, quotes, statistics, and so on and so forth. And then body paragraphs also connect back through elaboration to the thesis statement and your introductory paragraph. So we have a beginning, we have a middle, and we have an ending. And they also help to organize and flow with your information. Each body paragraph and its topic sentence should refer directly back to your thesis statement. You see here, the typical 5-paragraph essay where we have an introduction and the thesis statement is in the introduction, and then each topic sentence, each idea that's represented in each body paragraph should point back to this thesis statement and be connected. And that's that logical flow that I've spoken about before. So you want them to connect and to be concise. So within each of your body paragraphs, you're going to use examples, evidence, etc., to support the topic sentence. And then that again refers back to or connects to the thesis in your essay, right? So you can use quotes, you can use stories or anecdotes, use statistics, any other kind of evidence or examples. Those point back to the topic sentence. The topic sentence, again, is that controlling idea of the body paragraph, and that helps to elaborate and explain the support. And note here that each sentence in a body paragraph should support the topic of the paragraph and thus the thesis. If it's not serving a purpose in that paragraph, then that is a key to you say, hey, you know what? I could probably get rid of this sentence. It's not really doing anything. It's not really saying anything. There's really no need to keep it. And that's good advice for those of you who tend to overwrite and just write lots of stuff or tend to be a little bit repetitive in your writing. It's good to take a look through those and make sure that each of those sentences are supporting the main and controlling idea of the body paragraph. So, with form, as I said, you have a beginning, a middle, and an end. The beginning is the topic sentence. Most paragraphs contain anywhere between 5 to 10 sentences. Those are the average paragraphs. Some are longer, some are hopefully not shorter. 5 is a really short, 5 sentences is really short for a paragraph. The first line of the paragraph is usually indented, which means you begin a few spaces to the right of the margin. You could either single tab or 5 spaces before you begin that paragraph. And that indicates to your reader that, hey, we're starting new information here, right? So it's a visual indicator that it's a little bit more white space that says, hey, we're coming to new information. So it's just a signal to the brain of your reader that be prepared for something new here. So again, you have your topic sentence, those supporting sentences, and then you have at the end kind of a conclusion or a transitional sentence, which I'll talk about in a little bit more. As I said, topic sentence, supporting sentences, also elaborating or explanatory sentences. So when you're incorporating information from other sources, whether it's a direct quotation or paraphrase or summary of a source, you of course are going to elaborate or explain why you use that information or what that information means and how it's relevant to your argument. So that's what elaborating or explanatory sentences are. And as I said before, concluding or transition sentences. Topic sentences are the sentences that control and connect the elements of the body paragraph. It is the main idea of that paragraph, right? It tells the reader what the paragraph will be about, and it connects back to the thesis statement that's in your introduction. Explanatory or elaborating sentences. Every paragraph has sentences that relate to the ideas in the topic sentence, and these sentences are called supporting sentences. These are the sentences in which the author explains or elaborates on the connections between the supporting sentences and the overall topic. Again, as I said before, this would be where you are explaining a quote or paraphrased information from a source and how it's relevant to your argument. We don't want to just drop quotes or drop borrowed information from a source just so we can use the source and then, not explain its relevance. Supporting sentences, they're used by the author to provide support, no duh, to the paragraph and to the overall thesis. As I said before, they can be quotes from research sources, personal anecdotes, statistics, stories, examples, paraphrases, summaries, that kind of thing. And please note, these have to be in complete sentences or woven into complete sentences. When you're using a quote, you're not just going to drop, an incomplete sentence because it's quoted material, right? You're going to weave it into your own words, like we had last week as I had that ties handout where you can have a quote sandwich, if you will, to integrate research material into your own words. And then the concluding sentence. It's sometimes helpful to have a concluding expression in your last sentence to signal the end of your paragraph. Some of the common expressions used in concluding sentences are things like, it is apparent, ... This is just one example. Consequently, or this demonstrates that. The concluding sentence can also act as a kind of transition into the next paragraph. And usually the first sentence of the following paragraph will have a little bit of connection so that you see the logical flow between ideas that you're presenting. So here we have an example body paragraph and it's color coded. You will see the different sections here. I'll just read it aloud. Family vacations can bring people closer together. I remember a time when my sister and I were not getting along. When we first left on family vacation, she and I hardly spoke, but being forced together made us have to interact. Positive situations like this, forced or otherwise, can create closer bonds, important to forging good relationships. According to Dr. John Smith, PhD, that's redundant, people who are open to counseling or group therapy have stronger, healthier relationships. Communication in a variety of forms can improve personal interaction. This demonstrates one of the countless ways to open up vital avenues to quality communication. So we see here in the blue that they're talking about how vacations can bring people closer together. And then we have a little bit of an anecdote here, and that's backed up with an explanatory sentence that shows the relevance of this quote. This is a little bit more of an explanation of the quote. And then we have this conclusion that says this demonstrates one of the countless ways to open up vital avenues to quality communication. So one thing about transitions, so they have transitions between paragraphs to help with the flow of ideas. If you've done a good job of arranging your paragraph so that the content of one paragraph leads logically to the next, the transition will highlight a relationship that already exists by summarizing the previous paragraph and suggesting something of the content of the paragraph that follows. So a transition between paragraphs can be a word or two, however, for example, similarly, or it could be a phrase or even a sentence that kind of repeats, maybe a signal word or something like that to show that you're making a connection. Transitions can be at the end of the first paragraph, at the beginning of the second paragraph, or in both places. And that's from a handout from the Writing Center at UNC Chapel Hill called Transitions. And that is the end of this presentation. I do want to point out that there is a handout on our Blackboard page about paragraphs that goes a little bit more in depth. So I recommend that you read it. And one of the things here that you can regard a paragraph as kind of a miniature essay with the controlling idea, that is the main idea or the main point of the paragraph, either implied or stated overtly in a topic sentence and with integrated supporting sentences that carry the development. Just like you have your introduction and then your body paragraphs help support the things that you're putting forth in your thesis. It's kind of like the paragraph is an essay in miniature. So you want to make sure your topic sentence helps to unify your paragraph, right? And just have one major point per paragraph, one idea per paragraph. Stick to the point. No matter how fond you are of an observation or detail, if it is not relevant to your argument, then you really need to cut it. And that is one of those things that you do during revision. So hopefully that helps you a bit with body paragraphs. And good luck with this final essay. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.